Hey guys, OG Albini here, bringing you guys another Draft League movie. Today we're jumping back into my favorite other metagame when it comes to Draft League, in Little Cup. For those of you who are new to the channel, I have been playing Little Cup Draft League for a long time, and I'd consider myself one of the better Little Cup Draft League players result-wise and things like that throughout my career, like ever. I'm very confident in my Little Cup ability and playing Little Cup Draft. I understand the format really well, and recently just finished a Little Cup League, PLP, the Peaches Little Podcast League, which was a lot of fun, and I figured I'd show you guys the run. But yeah, if you guys do enjoy today's video, be sure to drop a like in the video, as well as subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 10k subs, and I can't get there unless you help me sub, and you know, I'd really appreciate it in that regard. But yeah, that being said, quick little housekeeping. Like I said, this is Peach's Little Podcast League, which is run by Peachy and Tiro. They run a fun little cup like draft-oriented podcast. I've been on it a couple times. I'll be sure to link their channel in the description below. I don't know when they plan on bringing it back and doing more podcasts. I think they're taking a little bit of a break to let some topics come back to them, but I'll be sure to link them down in the description below. And yeah, with that being said, we can kind of jump into it. Now, rule-wise, the only real thing to note, Little Cup different than Standard, is one, obviously the Pokemon are all first stage evolutions. They're all being played at level 5, which makes EVs and speed tiers and things like that a lot more wonky, a lot more condensed. You see the sliders weird. Sometimes you might even have some leftover EVs depending on the set that you're going for, because it doesn't move you up any, right? So just something to keep in mind, obviously, as we go throughout. Also have to keep in mind, in Little Cup, there is typically, in most Major League settings, an item clause, being that you can only run two items, two of the same item on the team. The reason that this is done is to combat the rampant use of Eviolite and Berry Juice, which are by far and above, like not even close, better than every other item in the game. It just kind of keeps things varied and kind of, you know, balances things out a little bit to where everything can't hold Berry Juice and Eviolite. But yeah, with that being said, I kind of just want to go over my draft here to start. Now, something else to keep a note. While I have performed really, really well in Little Cup Draft League throughout my career, I have some hot takes, I suppose, at least to the greater community, on Pokemon I think are good, Pokemon I like to use, things of the sort. And despite doing pretty, really well in a lot of these, a lot of people kind of like dunk on the ones that I like to use. First round pick, obviously, is one of them in Abra, and it's kind of going to be the theme of this. We have a lot of Pokemon that are conventionally bad, you know, via the larger Little Cup Draft League scene, but I've never understood the Abra hate. I think this Pokemon's absolutely incredible. I mean, ridiculously fast, right? We talked about condensed speed tiers in Little Cup. Ultimate Nature we hit 19, making an elite level speed threat with 105 special attack, which is unbelievably strong, on top of some great coverage. Obviously, we have Psychic. Ooh. There we go. Psychic and Psyshock. We have Dazzling Gleam for Dark types. We have Knockoff for great utility. I mean, we have Shadow Ball. Really, it's just Dazzling Gleam, Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, and what do you call it? Psychic is going to be your main coverage, but again, like I said, great utility and Knockoff, Thunder Wave, Taunt, things like that. And even like the random, you know, physical move, the random Drain Punch or something of the sort, which can always be pretty silly. Random Focus Punch, Fire Punch for the Pharaoh Seed. Energy Ball is great coverage as well. We also have Encore, really fast Encore, but a lot of people just tend to not be big on Abra. It's pretty one note. You're going to Magikarp, and you're either going to be Life Orb Magikarp and just 2k everything, including Resist, or you are going to be Focus Sash Magikarp, which is a great insurance policy in Little Cup with how offensive the metagame is. But you can also run things like Scarf very, very viably too. I've run Scarf Abra multiple times, and we're running it this season, I'll tell you that too. Honestly, just an incredible Pokemon. I've never understood the Abra hate. I've always performed well with it, and we're going to see if we could do so again this season. Now, something that Abra always does appreciate, and the team has kind of built around Abra succeeding, is going to be a nice strong fighting type. Breaks through those darks, break through those steels is a dark resist in its own right as well, which is obviously very nice. And Abra breaks down the things that Timper doesn't like, in like poisons and things of the sort. Timper is probably one of the better fighting types in Little Cup. 3 great abilities, but in particular, Guts and Iron Fist are going to be your best. It is a little bit of an Eviolite hog in the sense of like you do kind of have to dedicate an Eviolite to it. But when we have Abra that is never going to run that item at the top, it kind of makes things a little bit easier. We can Drain, Knock, Mock, Bulk Up. We have obviously Elemental Punches, things of the sort. We can even, I believe, Defog if we absolutely need to, which is pretty cool. Honestly, Timber is just a really, really strong Pokemon. Does its job really, really well. Now, despite being a fighting type, though, it doesn't switch into Knockoff well. Nothing in Little Cup really switches into Knockoff very well, just due to the fact of how important your item slots are going to be at this level and how frail everything is. So I wanted to grab probably the only guaranteed great switch into Knockoff in Trubbish. Now, why is Natdex Trubbish one of the best knockoff switch-ins. Well, one, it gets sticky hold, so we can't lose our item. But two, it has a great combination of the access to berry juice and recycle that cannot be knocked off, giving this thing almost perma instant recovery anytime we take a hit that does a little bit over half, allowing it to be an incredible pivot. We get 17 speed, it can be physical special, it's a great spiker. It's also a great fighting check as well, which I really like alongside Abra Timber. We kind of get smoked by opposing fighting types, and Trubbish is probably one of the best offensive fighting checks in the game. So definitely a really solid Pokemon, definitely one I'm really excited to use once again. Now, you know this is my guy in Standard, or at least his evolution is one of my favorite Pokemon Standard. We just recently got an emote for him. Had to pick up Sandile again, too. Another Pokemon I don't really see drafted very often outside of myself. I've never seen, like, hate on it, but I don't see it drafted enough, in my opinion. Obviously, it has Intim and Moxie, just like Crocodile. We lack Knockoff, which Crook does have, and obviously we're a little bit more frail because we're just a Sandile. Look at those defenses aren't great, but it is very solid offensively and can function as a nice little Intim pivot, maybe with a Berry Juice, maybe with an Eviolite, and do some fun things in that regard. But really, it's great as a Choice Scarfer to Moxie sweep through, and I like having strong Choice Scarfers in Little Cup that can consistently run the item and get value out of it. Crunch and Earthquake is just always going to be strong neutrally, especially into a metagame that does not have a lot of fairies, so I really like having that option for Sandile here. So I think the one thing that's downside to Sandile on our team in particular is we don't have a lot of great means of momentum into it, but if we can find opportunities to get it in, it's going to do some great damage. Next up is Squirtle. This is number 2 Pokemon on the team that I think people give way too much shit. People hate Squirtle, and I really don't get it. Obviously, Squirtle has that ability to Shell Smash and just win the game, which is great. Physical special, gets Aqua Jet priority for opposing priority, which is really, really nice. Can do some really great damage. Aura Sphere and Ice Beam, obviously. Surf/Scald. Can do some really fun stuff in that regard. But we're also one of the best Rapid Spinners in the game, with combination of like Rapid Spin, Flip Turn, Yawn, things of the sort. This is a great physically defensive water in a lot of matchups as well, which is why I really like it as that Shell Smash sweeper, because Squirtle is going to be very good at both roles. Whether I need a bulky water in that game to come in, pivot in, flip turn out, keep hazards away for whatever extra reason, or if it's to come in, Shell Smash up, and win the video game, right? So pretty cool. You could do some other fun options like Water Spout Scarf and some other cool things like that. But yeah, honestly, just a really strong Pokemon overall. And I, again, do not understand the hate that Squirtle gets. I don't get it. Little Cup Hive Mind is a very, very scary and sad disease. Be careful. Don't let your loved ones around Little Cup Hive Minders. Next up, we have Geodude Alola. I want another rocker really right now with only Sandile. Geodude is very, very reliable doing so. This also gives me a flying resist, and it gives me a sturdy juice spawn. And what I mean by that is with sturdy and berry juice, if we make sure our HP is 20 or lower, if we eat our berry juice, we will go back up to full HP, which essentially gives us 2 sturdies, which is really nice. Obviously, assuming hazards aren't up, we can use tools like Endure to guarantee go down and live a hit, eat the juice, and come back up to full and get that sturdy again as well. It's a really, really nice tool in my opinion, but it's a great rocker, great flying resist, and it's a sturdy juice mod, which I always think is reliable. Or even just having sturdy, running like boot sturdy, and having this thing with like a boom could be really reliable in a way of like not losing the video game immediately. Next up, I grab Gossifleur. If you look at my team up to this point, we are incredibly, incredibly ground weak. We do not have a resistance or a Pokemon off the ground. So I think a low point Gossifleur is great. Gives me another Rapid Spinner, which takes a lot of pressure off of Squirtle defensively. Lets it play a little bit more offensively. This guy has Cotton Down, which is a really slept on ability. You see it more in your Run and Button Nuzlocke, but honestly, a really slept on ability in draft. My GOAT Legits used it really, really well in a Clash of Kings tournament with this Gossifleur. I'm using Cotton Down to guaranteed speed drops to allow for revenge killing sequences and things of the sort, but obviously regen is going to be incredibly, incredibly reliable. We're going to come in, we're going to spin, we might throw off a little sleep powder or something of the sorts, and then we're going to pivot out. Not a Pokemon that's going to come every game, but it is great, great low tier value. And lastly, looking at my team, and again, I wanted more Scarf, or I wanted another Scarfer. I wanted something that exerted a lot of offensive pressure, and I saw a Pokemon that I personally love and have won multiple championships with that nobody else drafts besides me, and we end up grabbing Froakie. Again, I couldn't tell you why people don't like Froakie. I genuinely couldn't. Really, you come in, you click whatever coverage move you'd like, whether it be Surf/Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse as well, I believe it gets still, right? Does this look at Dark Pulse? It doesn't, which is really funny that it actually does not get good coverage in that regard. But really... Excuse me, I love sneezing in the middle of a recording right as we're getting to the end of the first clip. Not the craziest coverage in the world, right? We have Surf, Scald, Ice Beam, Grass Knot if you really need it, but Stab U-Turn is great. Stab Rock Slide is great. You can go Mix, Physical, Special. It's gonna come in, it's gonna be just a reliable Scarfer. It might even rock out with like a mixed variant or something of the sort. It might even be like a Sash lead, things of the sort. Really solid. It also gives us another Spiker if we need it. T-Spikes aren't as good in Little Cup, but it gives us that option. This is overall a very, very solid Pokemon, and again, a great Scarfer that I don't understand why people don't draft, considering how cheap it is on boards now. We're going to kind of see if this season we can prove people wrong with our Abra, Squirtle, and Froakie. In particular, people are not high on those guys, and I'm very, very high on all of them, and I think we have a really fun team and a really solid squad, especially our top 3 is very, very powerful. So I'm excited to show you guys this season. I think it's a really fun one. But yeah, that being said, let's jump into battle number 1. Alrighty, week number 1, we're facing off against my good buddy Josh, aka Ultra Player. Now, unfortunately, I don't have my teams, I think, until week 4, because I think weeks 1 through 3 were wiped when I lost a bunch of teams a little while back, if you guys remember. So I don't have my exact team for this battle, but I do very generally remember the teams, and obviously we've played through the game, so we can kind of, you know, gain some information on watching through in that regard. But Josh has a really scary team. He has Galarian Ponytail, which is considered widely to be a top 3 Pokemon in the format. Typically, at least when I was playing a lot of LC back in the day, it was both the ponies and then Abra at the top. People don't believe that about Abra, obviously we talked about before, but Pony is probably a top 2 Pokemon in the format, you know, in tandem with Cantoni and Ponyta, which is always interesting to see because, like, their final evolutions suck. I think that's a fun part of Little Cup. But he also has it paired with a really scary Diglett, and I like this core a lot from Josh in the sense that really the Pokemon that can check Pony get absolutely smoked by Diglett. We have Pokemon like Fungus, which can be really, really annoying for the likes of our double water offense core. Mankey is a Pokemon I don't appreciate switching into a ton outside of my Trubbish. And Archon is a big, big issue for our team in particular. Nothing really switches into Archon in Little Cup. It's kind of just pressuring it and forcing it into that defeatist range. But our team in particular really does struggle with it a little bit. So that being said, jumping into it, I believe we have a Sash 3 attacks Abra. We have an Eviolite, either 4 attacks or 3 attacks Bulk Up Timber with Fire Punch coverage for that Fungus. I believe we are going to be a, what do you call it, variant in this game? I think we're 4 attacks with Drain Punch, Knockoff, Mach Punch, Fire Punch with Iron Fist. Scarf, Moxie, Sandile, a Sash leading Spike setting Froakie, which I think is really strong here, a Shell Smashing Squirtle, and then a pretty defensive Eviolite Gossifleur. That being said, let's jump into it. So we do see Archon lead while we lead with our Froakie. This turn I am going to elect to immediately Spike. I am Sash, I'll live any hit this thing wants to go for. It can kind of show off if this thing is going to be a Scarf variant. Obviously this is a Speed type otherwise, so I can confirm whether or not it is Scarf or not. We see it is not going to be Scarf. I also didn't think Josh would risk me being Scarf personally unless he's a Sash Archon set. And even then, you don't get a lot of value out of your Archon in that regard. I figured that something like a Fungus could be a safe pivot, or even Piplup, right? Because it covers the Ice Beam, which I could very viably bring and click in this scenario. So I thought this was a little aggressive from Josh staying in as I spiked, but we don't get super punished for it as we win the speed tie and get knocked off. We lose our Sash right here. There's a chance for us to win another speed tie or him not be max speed, but it shows that he is rocking with a quick attack. So lead sequence does go to Josh there. He was again a little aggressive, and I don't think over aggressive. It obviously worked, but a little aggressive, and things ended up paying off. I am kind of forced into my Sandile. Nothing on my team super threatens this Archon. We can click a strong Rock Slide and either put this thing into juice range or get it into Defeatus. We are just going to go ahead and click said Rock Slide. This was a roll to kill on some Archons. We see that this is not going to be Berry Juice. It's going to knock off our Scarf as well. But honestly, not the worst thing in the world, because we are Scarf Rocks on the Sandile, because there were some offensive positions where I knew I could force out something like a Ponytail, etc., and get out my Stealth Rock on a free turn. So that's going to allow me to do so right here, as he does elect to just get up his own rocks. Earthquake is still going to do a chunk despite Defeatus. Archon is really freaking strong, man. And we're going to go ahead and pick this thing off with a Crunch on our Moxie Crocodile, or Sandile. Next up, out comes Diglett. There's nothing we can do here. We are just trapped in, gonna get picked off by the Earthquake. What this does allow me to do is it does allow me to position my Gossifleur in to get off a free Rapid Spin. There's no way that Josh can block this spin, and unless he's double rocked with Rocks Diglett, we're keeping these away for the rest of the game, which is really, really nice for the rest of our team. Not taking Rock Chip is always going to be nice. So really free turn. We know Foongus is very likely to come out. I am just going to go ahead and elect to click Rapid Spin. We're also going to be Light Screen on this Gossifleur, allowing us to really, really neutralize this Foongus and not let it do a lot of damage to us with Sludge Bomb Leaf Storm, which is kind of annoying for our team, to be honest with you. And it allows us to punch him for being over-aggressive and clicking a Spore on this turn. He does show to be Leaf Storm right here, though, and this really tips off what his item might be. As you'll see, it is going to be the Eject Pack, allowing him to pivot out into Mankey. But in my mind, I'm completely fine with this. I can just drop a big Leaf Storm, really punish this thing for staying in and attacking, or we can see him U-turn out, get into his Foongus, but I have my Light Screen up, so I can pivot into a little bit easier with the likes of Timber. We already see an Encore here, though, from the Mankey, showing it's either Scarf Encore or just a cool Encore non-Scarf set, which is pretty interesting. Close Combat does come right here, showing it is not choice, but thankfully Timber is bulky as hell, and the fact that this Foongus isn't going to be an Eviolite variant is great for me, because I can Drain Punch, do a ton of damage, and this thing is just in range of Fire Punch from here. We are able to knock it out. It's hard for him to pivot into the Ponyta on that Drain Punch as well, because we do have Light Screen up, and Timber's so bulky physically that he wouldn't have killed us, but right here it is going to be able to find its position out. We're going to go into our Gossifleur. We're very specially defensive on this thing. Psychic is going to pop after our Future Sight goes in the air, as I do pop a nice little Sleep Powder into the Ponyta. We can eat up any hit this thing wants to go for, or this Future Sight hit afterwards, as I do set up a Light Screen for myself. The Future Sight is going to hit. Thanks to Light Screen, we don't take a ton of damage. And I'm going to get a little aggressive. I'm just going to click Leaf Storm. He can go ahead and click Encore again, but being that I know that he has that, me going hard into my Abra or hard into my Timber really, really punishes that. And I love the damage that this Leaf Storm will put on this Mankey right here. So we do a ton of damage, 48, showing that this is Eviolite. It would have killed if it wasn't Eviolite too, is another thing to keep in mind. And Close Combat is going to pick off my Gossifleur, but Gossifleur honestly put in a ton of work. The only thing that's annoying is potentially that Piplup can get out of hand or be really obnoxious to kill, but honestly, not the end of the world. We're going to be able to go into our Abra, and there's no universe where this thing takes us on. And thankfully, Josh ends up going Piplup right here, which I found to be an annoying Pokemon for us to kill, and kind of one of the main stopgaps to our Squirtle either breaking a hole through or winning the game. We're going to be able to just 2-hit KO this guy with Psychic, and being that the Ponyta is asleep, it's hard for it to try and come in and, you know, either outspeed us and revenge us with the physical attack or whatever it may be. Diglett's going to come out right here, and again, we're Sash, and the fact that there isn't a full team in the back means we are not going to be KO'd by a multi-hit beat up or anything of the sort. We see beat up come off right here. It doesn't kill us. Earthquake wouldn't have killed us as well because of our Sash, obviously. But obviously it's nice to not take as much damage because it's going to really secure a potential end game here with Abra or Squirtle. We're going to find the position to come in here and Shell Smash up in this Ponyta's face as Future Sight pops. Now, we were Protect on this set, and I actually didn't know this in the battle, but apparently, again, unless my friends are all liars and wrong, you can Protect and block Future Sight. I thought Future Sight went after the turn, so you could not Protect into it, but I had Protect on this set, so I could have potentially protected this turn afterwards and been completely fine. Regardless, though, we are going to be able to come in and just do a ton of damage, knock out this Mankey right here. And we could have theoretically protected instead of that switch in and then won the game, but not the end of the world. Out comes Abra. We should be able to live any special hit from this thing. We do just end up winning a speed tie, though, and pick it off with a nice Shadow Ball, securing us a nice 2-0 victory against Josh. Not the cleanest win in the world. I think there's some things I could have done better. Like the lead sequence wasn't great in particular, but hey, we'll take it. We're able to take home a nice 2-0 victory start off, and yeah, we're rolling to week 2. Alrighty, week 2, we're rolling into Inversify, and Inversify has a very, very scary team. A team that's really difficult for us in particular to deal with. The core of Stunky plus Farfetch'd is very, very difficult for our team. Farfetch'd is somewhat soft-checked by Trubbish. We have to be careful of being put in +2 Brave Bird range, but really, if we're not using Trubbish to solely check that Farfetch'd, we're in for a difficult time. We also have not only a great offensive piece in Stunky into our team, the combination of Knockoff plus Play Rough is incredibly powerful into our squad, but it's also an incredible Abra check, with Sucker Punch to just nuke it from full in any instance ever, but also the fact that it just kind of resists Dazzling Gleam pretty much. I mean, it's neutral to Dazzling Gleam, so the best we can hit it is neutrally with either Dazzling Gleam or a cool tech that you'll see that we have that I've seen into these Abra v Stunky matchups in the past. And then we have annoying Pokemon like like, obviously Drifloon, a Pokemon I don't switch into super well. Pokemon like Voltorb that kind of locked down our Hazard game in Geodude plus Trubbish. Voltorb, which is faster than our whole team and can kind of Volt Switch forever because our Volt blocker is going to get blown up by a Grass move. So, difficult matchup in particular. Inverse is a pretty solid team here, but let's see how we end up doing. I believe we are Life Orb Abra, we are Psychic and Tri-Attack in this game. Tri-Attack is going to be the strongest move we can use to hit Stunky, and it baits status, burn, paraphrase, whatever it might be. Might be a great way of getting ahead in this game. I believe we are Bulk Up 3 on our Timber. We are a special Sludge Bomb, Spikes, Recycle, and Dark Pulse set on our Trubbish here. Good check into the Farfetch'd, and Dark Pulse is nice in order to hit things like Drifloon. It's also nice to be able to not have to worry about getting burned by something like the Drifloon. We are I believe, just an offensive 4 attacks Froakie set. We are I want to say, pretty bulky Eviolite, Intimidating Sandile, which is going to be a Rocker, and then a lead Sturdy Juice Geodude. That being said, let's jump into it. Did you see a Voltorb lead into our Geodude? And again, this is kind of, this is pretty ideal in the sense that my goal with this Geodude is I have rocks, but isn't necessarily to get up rocks, because we have a very free Baltoy in the back if you're inverse, and I don't think that there's any reason to not just Volt out, break my Sturdy, go into said Baltoy, and just spin away Hazard / Force Me Out. I don't have a way of blocking it. So my goal with this Geodude was actually to boom immediately. If I can remove the Baltoy from the equation, my Timber has a much, much easier time of setting up some bulk ups and winning the game. So turn 1, I'm leading this, and I'm just booming. Unfortunately, we see a taunt from the Electrode. From the Voltorb. So while it isn't bad that I took out a big threat to my team, that wasn't the intended purpose of Geodude, and I don't have much else to force damage on Baltoy other than Timber itself getting aggressive Nocturnes off. On the double down, we are going to go into Abra. We see a flip turn from a Scarf Goldeen, so good to know that is going to be a Scarf. Very, very annoying for our team. And I'm just going to click Tri-Attack right here because I don't expect the Goldeen to stay in. Scarf makes sense to, flip turn out, obviously. But this Stunky is such a free pivot into my Psychic that I probably want to click into this guy. The Tri-Attack just seems like a pretty free mid-ground. We do click it, and we get rewarded for our good play by getting a burn on top of about 40% chip. So that's going to be great, neutralizing the Stunky a little bit. Some great luck going our way, because now, we're Scarf on our Sandal. I lied. We're not bulky Eviolite. But now what this is going to allow us to do, it's going to allow us to check the Stunky a lot better in the fact that we can switch into Knockoff plus Flare Off because we got a burn. Could not do so otherwise. Kind of had to use Trubbish a little bit. Flare Off is going to pop. We are not going to die, but I elect to get my rocks here. I didn't think, we were double rocks, obviously. I didn't think that they would elect to just sack this off. Hindsight, Ground plus Dark is very strong into Inverse, and I don't think you want to switch in and let your Farfetch take 8 billion when I still have a full health Trubbish in the back as well. So Hindsight, I think EQing was just the play, because it puts a ton of damage on this thing. Maybe I could be worried about Drifloon coming, but even then I can crunch the next turn or something of the sort, right? If it's not max speed Drifloon, it's going to take a ton from crunch, so not the end of the world. Annoying, but whatever. We're going to sack off our Abra. I actually don't see a ton of use for it in this game. Between Scarf Goldeen, this, Baltoy just living a hit naturally, pretty much, if it's Spadef. As I go into my Trubbish to try and get some spikes and Hazard stack a little bit, we are unfortunately going to get taunted here. Make an aggressive play, and I'm just going to Dark Pulse on this switch out into Drifloon, as it does show the juice, which is a little bit annoying, as I am going to eat my own juice, get back up to full as we Dark Pulse. Now, the annoying part is this, unfortunately, just isn't really a 2-hit KO. And even then, staying in right here isn't super optimal in the sense that me staying in means I have to take a ton of damage to 1v1 this thing for my Farfetch'd, or for my Trubbish, and then I don't have my great check to Farfetch anymore. So I don't think this is a great trade for me. As you can see, my taunt is going to end. I'm going to try and stay healthy if I can, maybe bait a burn or something like that if they want Willow. It gives me a free turn, because I want my juice back. But at this point, I think what I should have done, instead of just Dark Pulsing and getting my damage off, is I should have just sacked off my Sandile. My Sandile is slower than most. My Froakie can still put pressure on the thing offensively that Sandile would have done. And I can sack that off, keep my Trubbish at full, then go into Froakie and still revenge this thing from full with one of my coverage options, an Ice Beam, or obviously I could Scald right there, but not the greatest in the world. Up comes Farfetch. This either tells me Scarf or Quick Attack. It is going to be Quick Attack in this matchup, as I am going to get out into my Timber, as a Brave Bird does pop, and again, we make an over-aggressive play and knock off. I don't think this is the end of the world. I think I'm in a position where I kind of need to have him choke Gohar Boltoy and be knock it out. From there, there's actually a path for Timber to win. But I think that Inverse makes a good play here and just staying in and Brave Birding. You don't die to anything that I do. And putting this thing down range means that you just kind of clean with the Froakie, or with this guy in general. So I do try Mach Punch. Unfortunately, it doesn't pick up the KO. I don't think it ever did. Brave Bird's going to hit, and then I'm going to go out into my Froakie, and obviously we are just going to go ahead and die to a quick attack here. So kind of got our ass beat in this game too. Inverse is a great Little Cup player, one of the best ever, and he kind of got us this time. He whooped our ass. So GG's to him. Scary team that he has, and we just got to bounce back in week 3. Week 3, we're going up against Cult here. Big, scary threats on the opposing side. Obviously, you see the Cutiefly there, which threatens webs, as well as some really strong offense on its own. Now, it's important to note that in Little Cup Draft, typically Quiver Dance is a complex band on Cutiefly, so this Cutiefly could not Quiver Dance up in my face and win the video game that way. So it's good to know. Regardless, though, Moonblast with Psychic is really strong into our squad. We also have Staryu on the other side, which, while defensively it is very good at checking my double Water Core, it's also very strong offensively into our squad. So we have to be careful of that dual prong threat that it can be with Eviolite and its natural bulk, plus its offensive prowess into our squad. We also have Tyrant on the other side, big Dragon Dance threat. Sturdy Berry Juice plus setup is always going to be very annoying, so we want some kind of hazards to deter that, force awkward endure turns, things of the sort. Zorua is always going to be annoying, and the 50-50s that it kind of forces. I think Darumaka is a really slept on low tier offensive threat. If it hits its moves, it's really strong. Even into double water, those Sheer Force and Life Orb hits are going to be really powerful. And then we have Sprigatito, and I don't really know what Sprigatito does, or at least I didn't going into this, but then I looked and it had Bullet Punch and Sucker Punch, I believe, and has Protean, which is actually kind of annoying for our team, so gotta be careful of that guy. Thankfully, we do have Trubbish, which is a pretty good check to it, and kind of forces him into awkward U-turn turns and things like that a lot, so he can play pretty aggressively in trying to stop that. In this battle, I forget the exact Abra item if you're Sash or Life Orb in this battle. We have a defensive Eviolite Squirtle, which is here to spin, flip turn, yawn around, do things like that, check things like the Darumaka. An Eviolite on our Gossifleur as well, gonna be pretty specially defensive. Scarf Sandile, Juice, Recycle, Trubbish, and a Scarf Froakie. I'm really hoping that the Scarf Froakie plus Abra is going to kind of be our main end path to winning in the end game. Same thing with Sandile. We got to get a lot of chip on some stuff. Like, we got to pretty much eliminate Sprigatito, and then we got to get a lot of chip on things like the Cutiefly and the Staryu, but if we can, it's really strong. I like the double Scarfers, though, because it really pressures Tyrant to either be Rock Polish or get up to Dragon Dances, which is pretty hard into my team, to be honest with you. That being said, let's run into it. So we see Sprigatito lead. I am going to lead Froakie. I'm going to be pretty aggressive in U-turn. I'm Scarf. So the only way this goes wrong is if they are also Scarf, and they also elect to Bullet Seed or click a Grass move. When I have the whole ass Trubbish in the back and the whole ass Gossifleur, I think we force a U-turn turn here pretty comfortably with this Sprigatito. So I feel very comfortable making an aggressive play in U-turning turn 1. We do see that this does take 85, and it shows to be Zorua instead. So I am able to scout that out immediately, get out into my Squirtle, who is Eviolite and very defensive, and then the Staryu is going to be forced in on a U-turn. Thankfully, we have a pretty specially defensive Trubbish in this battle, and what this is going to allow me to do is get up that first layer of hazard that was really important to me before, as Darumaka is going to make an aggressive switch in. Good aggressive switch by Cult, by the way, knowing I'm probably going to hazard up here, giving a free switch into Darumaka to wreak some havoc. We are going to go Squirtle right here as Flareless comes out, and despite being Eviolite and defensive, it does 30%, which is pretty insane. U-turn does also 30%, which is pretty insane, and that's not even Life Orb, as we see the Life Orb doesn't pop. I'm going to be able to go ahead and flip turn out here into the Staryu, and I make the decision to go into Sandile. Now, this might seem silly. Oh, and why did you go into Sandile? Well, the reason I went into Sandile is because I really incentivize Cult to stay in and get this KO here. I'm fine with sacking my Sandile immediately, because keeping this thing at 25% / lower is incredible for Pokemon like Froakie in the back to come in and win the game later. And this goes down. Ice Beam is super free as an endgame, so is Surf. We have a really clear path to victory with said Froakie. So while I might sack off my Sandile right here to a Scald, I will just die. I get crucial chip off. I can go into Froakie itself. Protean U-turn is going to kill a bulky Eviolite Starmie from 25%, and I can just throw off a big U-turn, and now I just need to make sure I'm positioning myself in which Staryu can't come in and recover up for free. We're going to go Gossifleur as it is a big deterrent to that. It also forces in Darumaka, which lets me get back in my Froakie, which allows me to click strong attacks. So I am going to go ahead and just sack off my Squirtle. I die to any hit. I die to any hit in the back as well. And this is actually the only Pokemon that super very freely lets Staryu recover in its face. So I'm going to go on to my Froakie next. I believe I do just click Surf. knock this guy out, which is great. The reason we click Surf here is because it's strong into everything. It kills a Staryu from here, and if Sprigatito comes out, that's fine. I have my whole Trubbish in the back. Out comes the Tyrant. We are going to break its potential Sturdy. It can be Strong Jaw. I'm going to make the pivot into Gossifleur. I am Eviolite, pretty defensive. I lost my check in my Squirtle to this, or one of my checks in Squirtle to this, so I can use Gossifleur to come in, throw off a big sleep powder, put this guy to bed, and then position myself from there. Staryu's going to pivot it after I sleep it as I make an aggressive switch into Froakie. I am going to be able to U-turn, kill this Staryu, which is absolutely great for me, pick this thing off, go onto my Abra, and again, exert some more offensive pressure. Sprigatito is going to come out right here. I do want to protect and kind of scout and see what this guy wants to go for, as you do see an Energy Ball pop. Thankfully, this isn't very threatening into my Trubbish, which is great. And we also have to keep in mind, too, I don't feel super scared about letting my Trubbish come in because this Tyrant still hasn't burned any turns of sleep yet. So I am going to go ahead and just Sludge Bomb into it as it takes a little bit of damage. Make the hard, aggressive Froakie play again because Ice Beam is just a KO at this point. We're able to Ice Beam into the Tyrant, knock it out clean. Very, very nice for us. Froakie can't, or Sprigatito can't come in. Cutiefly can, but what this does is it allows me to Ice Beam into this, and there are some variants that will die to Scarf Ice Beam. This one does not, unfortunately, as we do die to Moonblast, but it is going to take itself out to Life Orb, and we didn't die to non-Life Orb Moonblast from there, so just all things to keep in mind. Lastly is going to be Big Sprigatito. It's going to come and take another Spike. Tera Blast is its coverage move of choice to hit me, as I do just Sludge Bomb, bring it down super, super low, and we're just going to go ahead and click it one more time, knocking it out, grabbing a nice and solid 3-0 victory, bouncing back from the ass beating that we got from Vinverse in week 3. So that was obviously very nice. Good to bounce back, and yeah, we got to keep the winning ways going. Let's jump into week 4. Alrighty, we have week 4 versus G-Blaze here. Now, I finally do have my teams from this point onward, I think. At least most of them. We have a pretty fun team against G-Blaze here. He has some big threats. Pawniard Pancham is a really scary offensive core. Wingull outspeeds my whole team and pretty much 2-hit KO or kills the whole thing. I have a terrible Wingull matchup. It has to hit its Hurricanes, but I have a terrible Wingull matchup. Coughing is going to be a very, very annoying threat or check to the likes of things like Timber, especially if it's neutralizing gas. It can pretty freely burn me and neutralize my guts and is able to kind of just wall my shit. Scorbunny is also pretty annoying. We do have a Squirtle potential for it, but that's about it, and those Libero U-turns are going to sting. And then Drowsy is actually pretty annoying too as a conventional Abra check if we don't want to get too aggressive with our Pawniard. Now, looking at our team, we do have a Life Orb Abra. We are actually mixed in this game. This is like those weird random mixed matchups that you run. You're Psychic, Shadow Ball, Drain Punch, and Substitute. Psychic, Shadow Ball, Oko's his entire team, minus the Pawniard, which we need a little bit of chip on if it's Eviolite to kill with a Drain Punch. We are Substitute either for Sucker Punch 50-50 Mind Games or turns in which we can force out the opponent's Pokemon. Things like Pancham, things like Coughing are probably going to want to get out. Substitute kind of eliminates the prediction game to where I don't have to Drain Punch into a Drowsy or Shadow Ball into a Pawniard and give it a Defiant Boost, right? So that's kind of the idea there. And you see the double water core. We're actually double Scarf water in this game. We're Water Spout on our Squirtle with Water Spout, Scald, Ice Beam, and Aqua Jet. And then on Froakie, we are Surf, Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, and U-turn. Really, really strong in Pokemon on both sides. Water resists are very few and far in between, to be honest with you, especially on the team that G-Blaze ended up bringing. I know he sat Sandshrew and then one other thing. I'm sure that's what Ice Beam was for. Maybe Ice Beam is also just a neutral move on the thing. Who knows? But regardless, both Pokemon are very strong here. It doesn't have very consistent water resist, and I think they're both very strong in that regard. We have a very physically defensive but very fast Trubbish, where Gunk Shot, Drain Punch, Spikes, and Recover. This is going to be one of the best Pawniard checks in the game. This is not Dex, so Pawniard can use Knockoff, but because they're a Sticky Hold, we can eat that up, get our Berry Juice, get back up to full. Really threaten it with a Drain Punch, which is great. We have another great Pawniard check in Timber. We are Drain Punch, Knockoff, Mach Punch, and Thunder Punch. Just 4 attacks, nice and simple. And then we have a Geodude Alola, which is going to be our lead. We are Custap Berry with Rock Blast, Earthquake, Explosion, and Stealth Rock. There is a Sandshrew potential on the other side. Explosion is great into that thing, into getting me into one of my water types to just pick a KO. But obviously, we don't see Sandshrew on the opposing side, which means my rocks are incredibly free, and rocks are incredibly important into Wingull matchups. So I really like that aspect of this. And yeah, with that being said, I think we could just jump right into it. So in this battle, we are going to lead off with our Geodude. We see a Wingull lead. This makes sense. We can always U-turn out, pop the Sturdy, and kind of reposition ourselves. I am just going to go ahead and get up my Stealth Rock as Pawniard comes hard out here. Thankfully, we have a really good check to Pawniard in our Trubbish. So we're going to go hard Trubbish, Eat this knockoff. I mean, eat it is a little nice. It took 60%, but we get back up to full. So, I mean, we basically took 0 damage. I'm going to be aggressive, get up a spike here instead of recycling. Really chip down this team with hazards as it doesn't have any removal outside of like a defog Wingull. And then I'm going to make the pivot into my Geodude as I don't need it. And what I can do here is I can immediately boom. I won't do a lot to this coughing, but if it's Eviolite, I guarantee put it in spout range. And if it's juice, I pop its juice and I kill it with it anyways. So that's obviously really nice here. We're going to go ahead and see an acid spray pop into our Geodude. I'm really fine because I'm not staying long. We do EQ or boom for 52, showing that this thing wouldn't have taken a boom normally, which is pretty crazy. And then out comes Squirtle for a water spout KO. Next up, Wingull comes out, and this tells me this thing is either Eviolite or Scarf, because there's no other reason to come in and bring this in. I'm kind of thinking Scarf in general makes a lot of sense because my team does not have good long-term flying resist. And I obviously don't want to just sack my Squirtle for no reason, and I'm not going to do anything if it hits me with Hurricane anyways with my Water Spout. I decided that Froakie is actually the most expendable. I have my other Scarf Water here. Timber's bulky enough to take on Pokemon like Scorbunny, and if I can eliminate Drowsy, Timber also has a very clear Mach Punch endgame win path, because if this is Scarf Wingull, doesn't take much to put it in range. I'm going to make the play into Abra here. I know this isn't Life Orb, and what this does is I know that this should force him out. There's one roll, one absolute max roll in which Hurricane can kill me. Wingull is his only way of not just losing to my Timber at this point. Timber plus Squirtle really puts in a ton of work into his squad with these hazards up. So I'm going to make the prediction that he is going to make the switch out. Instead of Shadow Balling or Drain Punching hard, I am going to make that mid-ground of Substitute. We also could have seen a miss from Hurricane here as well, so something else to keep in mind. That's why I didn't think, again, he'd be willing to take that risk. And thankfully, the Substitute is going to come up super clutch here as we force in Drowsy, and this just dies from full. The Abra check just died from full. Wingull comes out, and again, I'm feeling myself a little bit. I know this is Scarf, needs to break sub. This thing dies to Psychic. It's not going to stay in and Hurricane or Scald. It's going to U-turn out and try and reposition itself offensively. What I am going to do here is I am just going to click Drain Punch. Hard Drain Punch, calling the Poniard. There's no more 50-50s with that Drowsy around. I don't have to substitute again. I can just click the button. Poniard is going to be the switch out. It takes Rock and Spike, and Life Orb Drain Punch is going to OHKO it from full, bringing Abra back up to full HP, making it to where this Wingull, once again, has to hit a Hurricane and get a max roll to kill me even, and if it doesn't, Abra might just clean up the game depending on the Scorbunny set in the back. We do see a Hurricane miss. I do Psychic. Again, it needed an absolute max roll to kill me. Thankfully, we dodged, and at that point, my opponent understands, there's not much of a chance from here forward. So Abra just absolutely putting on a clinic. I believe it got the kills for the last two guys as well. So Abra jumping up the kill leaderboard a little bit. We're able to take home another dub, move to 3-1 on the season. It's also only a 7-week season, so the more wins, the better. You want at least 5 to like guarantee playoffs, but 4 should be okay. So we're really only just 1 win away from locking off a playoff appearance with the squad here. But yeah, pretty good win here against G-Blaze. Let's jump on to the next. All right, next up, we have our Week 5 game against Brettavis here. Brett has some really scary threats. We're playing the other pony on the other side. We also have big threats like Snivy, which can always snowball very, very fast, though I do think we have a good Snivy matchup. Elekid, which is one of the few Pokemon faster than my Abra in the format. Drillbur, in which I don't have great ground resist consistently long term. And Crabrawler, who has been a big, big threat in the Generation 9 Little Cup Draft League. A big come up, a Pokemon I've actually really enjoyed using in the past too, so I'm glad to see it get its flowers. And then we also have Frillish on the other side, which is actually really annoying for our team, as you'll see right here. We have a pretty fun squad again this week. We have a Choice Scarf Abra. We are Psychic, Trick, Shadow Ball, and Energy Ball. Very, very simple set. If you look at Brett's team, he doesn't have a Psychic resist. And having that Choice Scarf is going to allow me to revenge the one Pokemon that can revenge me, or at least be faster than me in Elekid. It also lets me cover all of his Scarfers, which I think is really, really clutch. We also have a specially defensive Gossifleur, Energy Ball, Pollen Puff, Synthesis, and Rapid Spin. It's going to be our main Snivy check, allowing us to Pollen Puff through it, hitting it hard so it can't just kind of sub-glare Leaf Storm all over us. Also serves as a solid check to the likes of Drillbur if we need it. We have a physically defensive Squirtle with Berry Juice, Yawn, Scald, Yawn, Rapid Spin, and Ice Beam. Solid check to the likes of Pony. Solid checks to the likes of the Drillbur if we need it. Yawn is mostly to punish that Frillish switch in because it's very, very free into Squirtle. And then once again, especially special attacking Trubbish that is physically defensive mostly. Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, Spikes, and Recycle. Don't want to get burned in this game and then be useless offensively by either Ponyta or the Frillish, and Giga Drain hits both Drillbur and Frillish super effectively, which is nice. Sludge Bomb kind of covers everything else. Good check into Crabrawler. Also can soft check things like Ponyta, depending on how offensive they are. We have a very fast Timber with Eviolite, Guts, Drain Punch, Knockoff, Bulk Up, Mach Punch. Very simple set. We're very fast, hoping to catch very slow Frillishes, which is also very nice. And Scarf, Moxie, Sandile, pretty simple. Once we eliminate the Snivy, no ground resist, so we can just kind of click EQ and win the video game potentially. So yeah, that being said, let's jump right into it. So in this battle, we are going to lead off with our Trubbish. I want to spike immediately, as we do see the Frillish lead, as it does Will-O-Wisp me right away. So showing that it is Willow, got to be careful about switching in our physical attackers to this Pokemon. However, we do have Guts on our Timber this week, so don't have to worry about that in that regard. Hex is going to pop into us as we do get our Berry Juice back immediately, which is very nice. And we're going to save this so that we can still soft check things like Crabrawler if we need to. Hex is going to pop into Gossifleur, as I believe I do make an aggressive double out into my Sandile. The reason is I thought the Ponytail would come in. I think Brett made a mid-ground expecting me to potentially Sleep Powder on his Ponyta. Didn't want to get slept, which is totally understandable, but the only mid-ground to that is Snivy, and I was thinking, I was like, damn, that's my Snivy check. I'm gonna go right back into it, right? There's no reason not to, as it does this Leaf Storm here. You see it only does 17%. While this can compound, it's not the worst thing in the world. It knocks off to get rid of my Eviolite, which is fine, but Pollen Puff is going to do a decent chunk, potentially a 2-hit KO right here. Giga Drain is going to put down a range of the second one, so good play here from Brett. We do click another Pollen Puff. It would have killed, obviously, if he didn't, and then the second Leaf Storm is going to pick us off. So Gossifleur goes down, but it did its job. Abra can come in, click Psychic, and get a revenge kill. Nothing takes 2 Psychics with the spike up where he's at. Now, this is an interesting thing, right? Brett doesn't know that I'm Scarf. If I'm Life Orb Shadow Ball, there's a very real chance I just blow this Frillish up. So from his perspective, he's like, okay, it's time to go Elekid. Elekid exerts some decent offensive pressure. He can force out this Abra, or just kill it. I'm Scarf, though. And Scarf to a Elekid after a spike is a KO. So I'm just going to stay in, click Psychic, and knock this thing out immediately, getting a huge advantage right away, showing off the Scarf and revealing that tech, but I mean, completely worth it to pick off 2 Pokemon right away. Frillish is going to come out. I am going to make the pivot on the Sandile. I believe I thought that a Ghost move would come out, and it just kind of gives me some more aggressive offensive positioning, so maybe a little bit over-aggressive, because EQ is very, viable as an endgame path, but not the end of the world. We are going to sack off our Sandile. This does give us a free switch into our Timber, though, as I do just knock off this thing's Eviolite. 1, to gauge how fast it is, and 2, get rid of the item. We see that we're faster, which is great for me. Strength Sap is going to come out, but I can kind of just bulk up in this thing's face. I'm not super worried about it, to be completely honest with you. We just have to get a turn or 2 right. Scald's going to pop. It doesn't burn me, but if it burns me, this thing dies even more. Scald's going to hit right here. We are +2 defense. We're going to be able to knock out this thing with a +1 attack, being that it does not have its Eviolite anymore. And out comes Ponyta. I believe I do just Mach Punch to get off as much chip as possible, as Flare Blitz doesn't even KO the bulked up, Timber right here. We're able to get 2 because we don't get a Flame Body, and then out comes Drillbur. I can once again just get a Mach Punch off. No downside for me. They elect to EQ instead of spin. Regardless, I could just go into my Abra after that Mach Punch damage, though. Pick off the Drillbur, and then last Pokemon is obviously going to be Crabrawler. Not worried about it. Just click Psychic. No reason to play around this and choke. Kill it, even if it's like a random Pyappa. We have our Trubbish in the back. We have our defensive Squirtle in the back, and we're in a good spot here, and we're able to take home a nice and solid 3-0 victory on the back of Abra getting 4 more kills again. By the way, this Pokemon's bad, guys. Remember, no matter what you take away from this video, Abra and Squirtle and Froakie, they're terrible. Please don't draft them. They're so bad. All right, on to week 6. Alrighty, looking at week number 6, playing against Peachy, one of the 2 owners of the league. I think we played Peachy into T-Row, actually, right back-to-back, which is pretty funny. Both very scary squads. Both coaches are actually doing very well. So finishing off the season into a very solid player. And Peachy has some big threats in the Webb's Dewpider, the Zorua Hisui, which if you watch our last Little Cup movie that went up like 6-7 months ago, that was actually our round 1 pick. Incredible Pokemon. Absolutely love it. Love it with Webbs, too. Really hard to spin comfortably into these types of team comps. Watrel, who is a big demon, very difficult to deal with. Sandshrew was very annoying, and then Pokemon like Gulpin and Tinkatink to round it out. Tinkatink being a great Abra check, by the way, so definitely got our work cut out for us. We have a Life Orb Abra here. I believe we are, I want to say a sub-variant. I'm not 100% sure. Defensive Squirtle, bulk up 3 Timber, Very specially defensive Berry Juice Sandile to pivot into the Watch Shell once if we need to. We have a Juice offensive Geodude as well with Rock Blast, Explosion, Stealth Rock, and Earthquake. Kind of bad into the Sandshrew, but good otherwise. And then a Life Orb Froakie, which is incredibly strong. Now, the big thing with this team is we cannot allow webs to go up. Tall task. Dewpider gets them up pretty freely on a lot, and it's easy to spin block and at least secure that the webs don't go up on this team. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen. It means we have to kind of position offensively in order to not allow it to happen, but we'll see how it ends up going. That being said, we're going to go ahead and start this one off. Geodude is going to lead into Watch Shell, lead Flying type, U-turn out, break the sturdy. Makes sense, right? All simple stuff. I'm going to EQ to put as much damage on this Sandshrew as possible. I know that this Watch Shell isn't staying in. There's no reason. And even if it does, oh well, I can adjust the next turn. We do like 40%, 45%. So this shows that this isn't going to be an Eviolite variant, which is good for me. Next up, Squirtle is going to pivot out as a Sub Pops, and this does show to be a Berry Juice variant, which is a little bit annoying because it is back at full. Thankfully here I am going to be able to Scald, break the sub immediately, and then go ahead and just go and flip turn out. But unfortunately, Dewpider comes in. And this is tough because if I would have just stayed in Scald, obviously I can't burn the Dewpider, but I am Yawn Rapid Spin on this thing, so I can really position myself offensively to really put Peachy in a tough spot when it comes to keeping up these webs. And since I can Yawn and Scald into the Zorua and do a ton of damage, I can Yawn and spin if they don't want to switch out, whatever it may be. And I can 1v1 that Zorua and at least try and get back in on the sleeping Dewpider if it, you know, is asleep and get off the spin in that regard or whatever it may be. Do make the Froakie pivot. Unfortunately, I don't kill Eviolite with Life Orb Rockslide, so I'm not going to go for it. Sticky Web does go up here, and Sandshrew is going to pivot out immediately as I believe I do end up yawning. Now, what I am going to do from here is I am just going to stay in and Scald. This could obviously be regular Sandshrew, but more than likely it is going to be Zorua, but I should live any one hit from it. I can Scald, put a ton of damage on it, and then potentially hopefully force a spin in a little bit, if at all possible. We are going to go ahead and throw off a Terra Blast, though. Unfortunately, we do get crit, and it does sort of be Life Orb, and it kills us. Now, I talked to BG afterwards. They were pretty, like, confident in saying, like, I know, I know that you can like live that hit, but I'm never letting you spin webs away because as you can see, our team is very predicated at not having webs up at any time. So Abra is going to be able to pick the KO into the Zorua. Fortunately, Tinkating is going to come out, and I don't really have a great switch in to this Pokemon. I believe a knockoff comes out here. I'm kind of losing my Watch Shell pivots as well as a result. Flare Up is going to do a ton of damage. They do get at my Stealth Rock. I'm not expecting the Sandshrew to want to come hard in on another Earthquake as we do go down here. Sandile is going to pivot out here. This does show to be a very fast Tinkating though. It is just going to OHKO me. And that's really bad. I can go into my Froakie, but this game is almost as good as over as knockoff does pop. I lose my Life Orb. I click Hydro Pump, do as much damage as possible, but it is just going to be juice and get the juice right back, right? So we do die to a player off afterwards. Unfortunate, but what can you do? And at this point, my win con is potentially just them missing a lot of moves and letting me bulk up for free. I am going to bulk up here. This Tinkating can be Encore and stun lock me into it. If so, oh well. I think I just bulk up until I can't anymore, and then I Mach Punch to avoid the Encore in that regard. Thankfully, they don't have it, doesn't look like, as I dodge a play rough and then hit a Mach Punch. We are in a position right now where Watch Shell will die to knockoff or die to knockoff in a Mach Punch. If it misses Hurricane, there's a potential, depending on what this Gulpin set is in the back, that our Timber can just win the game, or we can win with Abra because of the fact that even though webs are up, these Pokemon are all very slow, and they all get OHKO'd by Abra at this point. Watch Shell is going to click Hurricane though, and is going to hit. Being that we don't have our Eviolite, we super die to that, obviously. We are going to go down there, and then from here, I think I try and play for a choke. I sub in case they caned again and were like choice locked. They weren't. All good. It happens. We are going to take one more KO with Abra, but from here, they do have plenty of options to potentially be able to beat us. Gulpin comes out, and I was like, okay, stunt or die, I guess. It is Payapa, which is pretty funny. I don't know if that was needed. Maybe the Sandshrew was really slow. If so, I wonder if that was a roll. That would have been really funny to still win with terrible Abra. But yeah, that being said, we are unfortunately going to take our second loss of the season, losing a 3-0 to Peachy here. And this is a potential playoff rematch, so this wasn't like the sweatiest team of all time. Hopefully, we can grab a dub, and yeah, we'll see if we end up rematching them. Alrighty, next up we have our final game of the regular season against T-Row here. Now, T-Row was super locked for playoffs. I think I was too. I think there was like a small universe where I didn't make it because it's only top 4 playoffs. It's a smaller league. So I didn't like sweat my build, but I definitely brought a real team. I know Tiro brought some more silly stuff. You see the Combi on the other side. Tiro was very excited for this game. He brought some cool tech, so I'm excited to show it off. As for our team, in this battle, we did have a Shed Shell Trubbish. You see a Gothita on the other side, did not want to get trapped at all. We were Gunk Shot, Corrosive Gas, Spikes, and Rock Blast. Nice and simple. And we had a Sash, Abra, Psychic, Protect, Shadow Ball, and Counter. Counter nice into things like Grookey that will just blow us up otherwise. Protect allows us to keep our Sash pretty comfortable in the face of Pokemon like Fake Out, Makuhita. Then we have a Scarfed Sandile here with Earthquake, Crunch, Stomping Tantrum, and Stone Edge. If we eliminate the Grookey, there's a good chance that our Sandile can win with Crunch. We have an Eviolite, pretty defensive Squirtle, Scald, Ice Beam, Flip Turn, Aqua Jet, nice and simple. We have a very, very fast max speed Jolly Timber with Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Knockoff, and Bulk Up. Does really, really well in this battle, especially if we outspeed the Gothita. And this kind of lets me gauge for a playoff matchup how much speed Tiro is willing to run in his Gothita, which is potentially very valuable. And then lastly, we have a Juice Sturdy Geodude, sorry, with Rock Blast, Explosion, Stealth Rock, and Supercell Slam to do a ton of damage. And there's no ground, so it's actually really, really powerful in this battle. Geodude's hard to switch into. That being said, let's jump into it. We are going to see a Chinchou lead into our Geodude. I'm fine with this. This is great Rock Blast damage on anything. There's no real Rock Resist. It's Makuhita, but I can just Supercell Slam it afterwards. We have our Sturdy Juice intact. So we're going to see a Rain Dance showing that Tiro is going for some rain shenanigans with his Anorith most likely. As Rock Blast does to hit 3 times, it also shows to like not be Eviolite probably, and it doesn't show Berry Juice, so this is maybe potentially Damp Rock. As Flip Turn is going to pop, and thankfully due to the rain, it might happen without the rain, we're able to actually be brought into range of our Juice, so we get back up to full on the Makuhita that is going to pivot out as I set up my Stealth Rock nice and comfortably. I'm going to go ahead and Supercell Slam to 75, show that I'm faster than Makuhita, as it does set up a Belly Drum in my face though, gets down to 50, but this is fine. We live a Bullet Punch obviously with our Sturdy, and Supercell Slam is going to knock this thing out from the range in which it is at. So it's a big KO for Geodude. Chinchou's going to come out. It can Flip Turn again, but it just took rocks for no reason. We also get to find out if this is going to be Damp Rock in this battle. It is not going to be Damp Rock in this battle, as Abra's going to come out on Combi. I see that it's Boots, and there's nothing that this thing can actually do, and it just dies to Psychic if it's not Eviolite, right? So we're just going to KO it immediately. I also like the rocks because it let me know like if this Comfey was going to be like some silly like Choice Scarf Hustle bullshit. We limited it to 2 switch-ins before it would die, so I'm going to see Chinchou come out. I am just going to Psychic here. It does show Sucker Punch. Really strong Sucker Punch. Looks like probably a fully physically invested with Flip Turn and Sucker. But we're Sash, so we never really had to worry about that. Anorith is going to come out, take rocks. There is a chance where we can KO this in some sets. We unfortunately don't right here. X-Scissor is going to pick us off, but Abra put in some more work. Got 2 more kills. Squirtle is going to be the pivot out of choice. We're just going to Aqua Jet, immediately pick this thing off. As Grookey comes out, and I realize, I don't really need this for anything. I'm just going to go ahead and click Ice Beam. No reason not to, as it does pop its Seed. Also, by the way, this is Glide Grookey, which I think is very silly that this was allowed. But we're just going to click Ice Beam into the Gothita, do 33%, which is great. And this next turn, just Flip Turn out. Don't really need this for anything at this point. We can just Flip Turn, bam, go into our Gothita, or go into our Timber. And again, this is kind of more of a scouting moment. I'm very confident I will win this game. This thing's at 5%, and this is Grookey. I have my Trubbish in the back. I'm not super worried, to be completely honest with you, and I want to see how fast this Gothita might be. So I am just actually going to go ahead and click Knockoff instead of clicking Mach Punch. It's supposed to be Offensive Psychic too. If it wasn't Max Offensive Psychic, we pretty comfortably lived that a lot of the time too. So good information to know, to be completely honest with you, as I do go into Squirtle right here, I believe, and just click Flip Turn, bringing in my Trubbish next. Again, we once we KO this thing too, we also have our Sandile option. We're gonna go ahead and just Gunk Shot into this guy. Last out is the Gothita. It is going to live rocks, but it is just going to go ahead and die to a Rock Blast, giving us a nice 3-0 victory in a little bit more of a casual for fun game between me and Tiro. I think we actually played this game in call together pretty recently. I guess it was a month ago now. Shit. But yeah, able to take home a nice win. I think we moved to, I believe that's 5-2 on the season, but that I think put us as the 3 seed, which means we played the 2 seed in round 1 of 2. So right into semifinals we go against Peachy, who we just lost to in the battle before this. So we'll see if we can make some adjustments in the builder in our play, and yeah, let's jump into it. Alrighty, looks like we have our game against Peachy next. Now, before when I was looking at the teams, I don't lie to you, I looked at my playoff team for this because I kind of just like built over the old one and made some adjustments that I wanted, so we can kind of fully talk about the team now. First up, we have an Encore Abra here, which is going to be Life Orb in this matchup again. We are Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Substitute, and Encore. What Encore does is it really punishes passive play. Clickings of moves like Fake Out and things like that from the Tinkaton. It really punishes moves like Sticky Web from the Dewpider, allows me to get off a free sub and really exert some pressure. If it is going to be a Berry Juice Tinkatink, Psychic does a ton of damage. Like, it does a lot of damage despite it resisting it, which I really like. Then we once again have the same Squirtle set, Scald, Yawn, Rapid Spin, Flip Turn. Nice and simple, we're here to keep away webs, be a decent defensive pivot, yawn some things, be a nuisance. Then we have our Eviolite Timber. We are offensive this week, though, with Drain Punch, Knock Off, Mach Punch, and Bulk Up. Really strong Pokemon in general. Again, outside of the Wattrel, nothing really takes this thing on. Once we get it to +1, Knockoff does a ton to the Wattrel. And again, even if we just catch it once with a Knockoff and rocks are up, it means it's probably going to be in range of Mach Punch on the next switch in. Then we once again have a very specially defensive Sandile. We are Crunch, Aqua Tail, Earthquake, and Stone Edge. No rocks on this set. I figured the double rocks were a little bit of overkill. I wanted Aqua Tail in case the Sandshrew showed up again. Looks like Scraggy, the actual round 1 pick from them, showed up this time, which I kind of forgot they have when we were commentating the last one. Makes a lot of sense. Scraggy's really broken, really good mon. I'm surprised it didn't come before. But yeah, we're able to kind of just be a catch one check to that Wattrel one time and exert some offensive pressure, which is nice. We also check the Zorua as well one time if we need to. Then we have an offensive Geodude, Rock Blast, Explosion, Stealth Rock, Earthquake, nice and simple. And then lastly is a Life Orb Froakie with Hydro Pump, Rock Slide, Ice Beam, and Surf. Really powerful set. We are not U-turning, we are clicking buttons in this battle. That being said, let's jump into it. We are going to see a lead Wattrel into our lead Sandile. This is perfect for me as I know I can take any one hit from this thing. It is going to go ahead and U-turn out into the Scraggy. I believe I do just click Crunch in case they wanted to click an offensive or just wanted to stay in and click, Hurricane. Covered that thing staying in. I'm able to get out of my Timber. I do lose my item on this Timber right here, but I can throw off a pretty free knockoff myself. While Gulpin can take the hit, Gulpin's not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, and it's kind of bad Trubbish in the sense that it can't recycle back that item, so it's fine if it comes in and keeps its item, because it's not staying healthy consistently. It just means I can't get rid of it. Mudshot comes out here as I switch to my Geodude. Nice and aggressive play, but thankfully due to Sturdy Juice, able to get back up to full. Giga Drain comes out, an incredibly offensive Giga Drain here, as I do just get up my Stealth Rock this turn and sack off my Geodude. It's not really needed at this point anymore, but rocks are going to be huge here. There's no spin, so if it's not Boots Wattrel, Boots Dewpider, things of the sort, they're going to get very chipped, and our Pokemon are going to look very strong soon. I'm going to make the video out into Sandile. I do just click Earthquake here. There's no ground resist. Wattrel can come out. We live any one hit from it, so that's completely fine with me, as we do get a nice Moxie boost. Wattrel's going to come out here, though, and in my head, I'm like, that's interesting. I always live Kane, unless it's Life Orb, and if it's Life Orb, I don't have a switch in anyways, so I'm okay with staying in and sacking this off. It does click Hurricane, though, as we do avoid set attack, and we're just going to go ahead and click Crunch and knock it out, which is great. So if it was Life Orb, that did potentially matter. Otherwise, though, honestly, it was kind of worse for me because the Scraggy's going to come in and it can potentially just get a ton of health back with a Drain Punch, whereas before, it couldn't. It's going to Trailblaze here, do a decent little chunk of damage, 66%, as I believe I make an aggressive pivot out into my Timber on a Drain Punch. They get some health back, but I still get to keep my Sandile sack. I'm going to click Mach Punch. Well, see, not only is this Eviolite, this is like damn near max defense Scraggy. Like, this is incredibly, incredibly bulky. As another Drain Punch does come out and kill us here, but it shows me it's not very offensive, and it hasn't set up any bulk ups yet. So what I kind of have to do right here is I am just going to go into my Squirtle. Drain Punch does do a decent chunk. As it's getting nice and healthy, I do Yawn, though, because this will put this thing to sleep, or it's going to give me offensive initiative as I flip turn out immediately, or switch out immediately into my Froakie here and get off a strong Rock Slide, which will kill this Dewpider with a Life Orb after Stealth Rock, which is great. Out comes Scraggy next. Again, big issue. We got to be very careful. Our play is to go immediately hard into Sandile. Our Hydro Pumps are not doing enough to this Pokemon. It gets a ton of health back. Or are we going to our Sandile just to sack it off? As a Bulk Up comes off and a Trailblaze hits. Again, Bulk Up Trailblaze is very scary, especially with how defensive this is. Thankfully, we do still live a hit with our Squirtle from this position. We can just go ahead and Yawn this Pokemon, and from here, we can just punish it staying in and attacking. It goes to sleep, and we can get onto our Abra right away. Out comes Tinkatink this turn, as I believe I do just go ahead and click Dazzling Gleam. I don't want to allow this thing to stay in and get stronger or whatever it may be. Fake Out is going to pop right here, but this is perfect because what this does is it allows me to really, really put them in a bad spot, Encore Stun Lock them, get behind a Substitute immediately as the Scraggy is going to be the pivot of choice. You see Scraggy just come out right here. And from here, Dazzling Gleam into Psychic is just a KO on every Pokemon. Down goes the Scraggy. Out comes the Tinkatink. If this is Juice, it does have a chance to live. If it does, though, we can put this thing potentially in range of our Froakie by getting off a couple of Psychics. You see, it does live the Psychic, just barely. Just a ton of damage, though. 54%, by the way, into a check. Shout to Abra being broken. 54 once again. We do die to knock off right here, but again, this is completely fine, as Froakie is going to be able to come out here. I click a nice and safe Surf on this turn, knock this thing out, and then out comes Zorua. And here it is, the patented special Little Cup speed tie. 17-17. Neither of us are Scarf. The winner of the speed tie will go on to the finals. Let's go ahead and click the button. We get the speed tie. We kill with Hydro Pump that did not matter because we were Life Orb, and we're able to take home a very narrow win. And honestly, a pretty terrible matchup to a great player in Peachy. Able to get the run back, get our get back, which is always nice, you know, after getting your ass beat in the regular season. And Froakie clutching it up for us. The terrible Pokemon duo of Abra, Froakie, Squirtle definitely kind of saved us in this game, is what I'll say. I think that's Squirtle, if anything, is the unsung hero in this one. Yawning that Scrafty twice, stopping potentially, setting up and winning the game twice. So big ups. Shouts to Froakie, shouts to Abra, shouts to Squirtle. They're in finals, and let's jump into it and watch and see how that goes. Finals, we are running it back against G-Blaze here, against some big threats on his side. We have the Pawniard, Pancham, Wingull, pretty much the same squad that he brought last time. Our squad is the exact same as well, not in sets. We did make a few changes. In this battle, the changes that we ended up making is I think I ended up adding Rock Slide to Froakie. I don't think we had it in the original. I think we were like Hydro Pump. And we also ended up taking off Thunder Punch off of our Timber. I realized that there weren't a lot of instances in which I was ever going to click Thunder Punch. Having the bulk up option will be great if I have things nice and chipped down, hazards up, Wingull gets low in range of Mach Punch. And if I think Wingull's going to come in, I can just click Knock Off anyways. It's a better mid-ground, and it basically kills the Wingull on the spot. Anyways, I believe we also changed to Custap Berry on our Geodude. Same set, just Custap in this game instead. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle itself. We are going to go ahead and lead off once again with with Geodude. We actually lead off with Froakie because I wanted to catch a potential Wingull, hit with a hard Rock Slide. Scorbunny's going to lead, and I feel very comfortable just going ahead and clicking a Surf. Again, there's not consistent water resistance on my opponent's team, so getting off a strong Surf into this Wingull was absolutely great. I'm going to go ahead and make the pivot out of my Geodude. If this thing is Scarf, it has the potential of just KOing me right here, and I don't know if he wants to risk that. Or I don't know if I want to risk that, so I'm going to make the Geodude play, because if it does stay in, it's either going to U-turn or Hurricane. I'm fine with either. It does end up going for a knockoff right here, getting rid of our Custap Berry. At this point, I'm kind of just saying, okay, this might be Scarfed. I'm hoping it's Scarfed. If not, I kind of just have to sack my Geodude. Thankfully, it looks like this is Scarfed. That kind of telegraphs that to me. Otherwise, we could throw off a really free Scald into our Geodude and just KO it. But we get up our rocks in the face of Pawniard here, which is great. Iron Head's going to pop, but I'm very comfortable just staying in and clicking Earthquake right here. If this is an Eviolite set especially, it's going to do a ton of damage, and in general, this is going to do a ton of damage. So we do just click Earthquake. We luckily get a crit right there and KO this. I don't know if that tells us if that was Eviolite or not, but a KO on that and rocks, Geodude put in the utmost of work in this finals battle. So we'll totally take that. Out comes Pancham. Geodude can be laid to rest. We're going to explode in case this thing wants to try and set up in my face, as we do die right here. Abra's going to come out, and the prediction game just isn't as crazy this game because we KO'd that Pawniard early. I'm going to click Psychic here. I see that this isn't Eviolite, and this is a turn in which I should have probably clicked Substitute. This isn't Eviolite, but he felt comfortable bringing it in. So this tells me that this is most likely going to be Custap Berry this time, especially being that I got O-code last time by Shadow Ball after switching in. What I can do right here is I can sub and either scout and see if this thing wants to click Knockoff, Shadow Ball, whatever it has to hit me, or if it wants to click Thunder Wave in this instance. It's kind of a drawback free play. It reveals that I'm not Sash, but at the end of the day, if I get a free sub up, the game is as good as over at this point. I do end up clicking Shadow Ball here though. It is Custap, it does barely live, and it does show Thunder Wave. I'm very surprised that he went for Thunder Wave in that instance, being that I showed that my set last time was sub Life Orb. I could have just clicked subbed again. He has Knockoff, you'll see this turn afterwards as it does KO me. So not the end of the world, but definitely not the best position in the world to be in, losing my Abra so early. So I think I should have subbed here and there. It was just kind of drawback free. Froakies going to be able to come in though, pick off this last KO here. You turn out. I go out into Timber as Coughing is going to be the pivot of choice. It again shows to not be neutralizing gas, which is great for me. It does Acid Spray here to lower my special defense, so I can't set up bulk ups all over it. I do just end up clicking Knockoff here, pivot out into Trubbish, and again, we're just trying to kind of hazard stack. Get some hazards, put some things in a range of Squirtle, and win the video game that way. Acid Spray does pop, pops our Berry Juice as we get back up to full here, which is very nice, and I'm going to pivot out into Froakie, because what Froakie does is it puts on a ton of pressure with a potential Surf into this Coughing right here. I do click Surf. Unfortunately, we get a very low roll, and we're not able to knock out this Coughing, which means we do lose our Froakie, but this Coughing is out of range, or is in range of rocks at this point. It's in range of literally everything on our team that is faster. So I do just go into Trubbish, and I click Drain Punch. The reason I go into Trubbish over the others is because Wingull really pressures my Scarf Squirtle. It also obviously beats my Timber as well, whereas Trubbish forces in either Pancham, which I beat, or Scorbunny, which is something I need chip on in order to win with Timber a little bit more comfortably. As Scorbunny is going to come in, shows to not be Boots, which is great for me. I am going to click Gunk Shot, win the speed tie right there potentially, bring this thing down into juice range as it does show Double Edge here, which is a ton of damage to my Trubbish. Right here, I'd love to win another speed tie. Unfortunately, we don't, and things are looking a bit grim at this point as this double edging Scorbunny is doing a ton of damage. I'm going to get out into my Timber, and I recognize something. I'm like, okay, from their perspective, if I knock here into Wingull, I win the video game. It's over. The Scorbunny comes back in, Poison, takes rocks, spikes, is a fire type when it comes back in. So it basically has one attack left after it comes back in. I still have my Squirtle, which I have not revealed any information on. If they go Pancham and I knock off, they also lose that thing 1v1. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, if G-Blaze wants to just get the most value out of Scorbunny possible, click strong stab double edge into my Timber. If I can get up 2 bulk ups, Wingull will die to Mach Punch after rocks if it is not an Eviolite variant. And to this point, I don't think it is. I really do think that it is going to be a Scarf variant with the way they played that knock earlier. So I'm going to play that out. Quick Attack pops right here, just trying to get off a hit before I kill them with Mach Punch or Drain Punch, and I think that was the biggest throw. I think they had to click Double Edge there, because I am able to get up a bulk up for literally free at this point. And this next turn, I'm going to go ahead and click bulk up again as another Double Edge pops. Completely fine. Pop that second bulk up. This thing is at 19%. Quick Attack pops right here because they know I can't attack again, as they do just Mach Punch here. Now, thanks to the 2 bulk ups, not only do I kill Wingull on most rolls of Pancham, it has to get an absolute max roll with either Drain Punch on Iron Fist or Zen Headbutt to kill me. I should 1v1 this Pancham as well. Drain Punch does pop, does not get the max roll. We're able to Drain Punch here, get out of range completely. Mach Punch here, we don't take it out, but double Mach Punch will, and Mach Punch had a roll there, obviously. It's just better so that we don't get flinched by Zen Headbutt. We're able to knock this thing out with a Mach Punch. Out comes Wingull, and again, most of the time, we do knock out this Wingull with Mach Punch. We click it here, get a really low roll. Shout out to Little Cup rolls. Don't get the kill, as it does click Hurricane in this instance, showing this is definitely choice, or would have clicked Water Move. Now comes our Squirtle. This is 1 HP, 5% Little Cup, so we're just going to Aqua Jet and take home another Little Cup championship. I think this might be like my 6th or 7th or maybe 5th. I don't know. It might be over exaggerating. But we're able to take home yet another Little Cup championship on the back of terrible Pokemon like Squirtle and Froakie and Abra. I mean, look how bad they are. All 3 of those guys. None of them are good, man. I mean, I must have gotten lucky. I must have gotten lucky. All jokes aside, big thank you to Peachy for running the league. This was a lot of fun. I love playing Little Cup. If you guys want to see more Little Cup on the channel, please let me know. I always have the idea of running Little Cup Wi-Fi again. There's no Berry Juice in Gen 9, which is the only reason I haven't run it yet, because I hate Little Cup without Berry Juice. But if it's something that you, the viewer, would be interested in seeing potentially over the summertime, I would totally be willing to open and run like a short Little Cup Wi-Fi season, and, you know, play a little bit of LC Paldea decks. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Sub if you're new. Let me know what your favorite member on the team was. Let me know your thoughts on Squirtle, Abra, and Froakie. We're spreading some propaganda. We're letting everybody know that these guys are broken. But yeah, thank you guys for watching again. See you guys next time. Later.